The derelict ship hung in space like a corpse. Silent. Cold. Dead. Or so Commander Vrel thought. Scans show 0 life signs, reported his second, Crix, tapping at the holographic display with 3 of her 6 fingers. No power signatures. No heat. Nothing. Vrel's mandibles clicked together, a gesture his species made when contemplating profit. The vessel before them was massive, easily 3 times the size of their salvage cruiser, and its hull bore markings he'd never seen in all his cycles of scavenging the outer reaches. Age, he asked. Best guess? 200 rotations. Maybe more. 200 rotations. Before the Galactic Council. Before the Treaty of United Worlds. Before anyone knew this sector even existed. Perfect. Prep the boarding team, Vrel ordered, already calculating how much a ship this size would fetch at the Trader's Haven. And Crix, keep the weapons hot. Just in case. In case of what? Ghosts? Vrel didn't laugh. In his line of work, he'd seen too many things that shouldn't exist to dismiss anything outright. The void was vast, and it kept its secrets well. The boarding pod clamped onto the derelict's hull with a metallic thunk that echoed through the empty corridors beyond. Vrel led his team of 4 through the airlock, their suit lights cutting through darkness that had lasted longer than some civilizations. The interior was wrong. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Just waiting. These corridors are huge, muttered Dax, the team's engineer, his voice crackling through the comm. What kind of species needs this much space? The extinct kind, Vrel replied, though something about that answer felt incomplete. They moved deeper, mag boots clanking against metal floors that refused to show even a speck of corrosion. Everything was pristine. Preserved. Like whoever built this ship had just stepped out for a moment and never returned. The first chamber they entered made Vrel's blood run cold. Rows upon rows of pods lined the walls, each one roughly twice his height. Frost clung to the transparent panels, obscuring whatever lay inside. The chamber stretched back so far his light couldn't find the end. Cryopods? Crix suggested over the comm link from the ship. Maybe, Vrel said, approaching the nearest one. He wiped at the frost with a gloved hand, and immediately wished he hadn't. Inside was a creature unlike anything in the Council's database. Tall, bipedal, with pale skin and features that struck him as somehow both delicate and dangerous. Its eyes were closed, its chest still. Dead, surely. Boss, Dax called from across the chamber. You need to see this. Vrel tore his gaze from the pod and followed Dax's voice to a central console. The engineer had managed to activate something, symbols scrolling across a screen in a language that predated translation matrices. Can you read it? Vrel asked. Not a word. But look at this. Dax pointed to a schematic rotating slowly on the display. It showed the ship, but with overlays and annotations that made Vrel's stomach sink. Weapon placements. Shield generators. Power cores that could light up a small moon. This wasn't a colony ship. This was a warship. We should go, said Pix, the youngest of the team, her voice tight with fear. We should go right now. Relax, Vrel said, though his own nerves were singing alarm songs. It's dead. Has been for centuries. That's when the lights came on. Not all at once. Not with a bang or a surge. They flickered to life in sequence, panel by panel, spreading down the chamber like a slow awakening. Red emergency lighting bathed everything in blood-colored shadows. What did you touch? Vrel shouted at Dax. Nothing. I swear, nothing. A sound filled the chamber. Low. Rhythmic. Mechanical. Thump thump. Thump thump. Thump thump. That's a heartbeat, Crix said over the comm, her voice barely a whisper. That's a heartbeat protocol. Boss, get out of there. Get out now. The pods began to hiss. One by one, pressure seals released with sounds like final breaths being expelled. Frost melted away, running down the transparent surfaces in rivers of condensation. Vrel ran. His team ran. But they'd gone too deep, and the corridors seemed longer now, stretching and twisting like the ship itself was rearranging to trap them. Behind them, in that chamber, pods were opening. Move, move, move. Vrel screamed, his translator barely keeping up with his panic. They burst through a doorway and Pix slammed her fist on the control panel. The door began to close, slowly, agonizingly slowly. That's when Vrel saw it. Through the narrowing gap, back in the chamber, one of the creatures had emerged from its pod. It stood there, perfectly still, watching them with eyes that gleamed with terrible awareness. Its hand moved to its side, to a weapon mounted on the wall, moving with practiced ease despite 2 centuries of sleep. The door sealed shut. Silence. Then, from somewhere deep in the ship, a voice. It spoke in that ancient language, words that rumbled through the hull like thunder. The translator struggled, spitting out fragments. Warning. Intrusion. Defense protocols. Authorized. What have we done? Dax whispered. Vrel didn't answer. He was too busy running, his team behind him, racing for the boarding pod while the ghost ship woke up around them. Every panel they passed flared to life. Every system hummed back to existence. Somewhere, in the dark behind them, footsteps echoed. Steady. Calm. Hunting. They weren't alone anymore. And Vrel had the terrible, sinking feeling that they'd just awakened something the galaxy had been very, very lucky to forget. The boarding pod wouldn't seal. Vrel slammed his fist against the control panel 3 times, 4 times, his breathing ragged inside his helmet. The mechanism whirred, tried to engage, then stopped. Again and again and again. They locked us out, Crix said through the comm, her voice tight. The ship's systems are overriding your pod controls. I can't break through. Try harder. Vrel shouted, spinning around to face the corridor they just escaped from. Empty. For now. Dax was already prying open an access panel, his tool sparking against ancient circuitry. Give me 30 seconds. We don't have 30 seconds, Pix whimpered, her eyes fixed on the corridor. Listen. Vrel heard it. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Not running. Walking. Like they had all the time in the universe. Because they did. Crix, weapons. Vrel barked. Fire on the ship. Blast us an exit. Negative. Their shields just activated. Full strength. Boss, these readings, they're impossible. No ship this old should have power like this. The footsteps grew closer. Got it. Dax yanked a fistful of wires, and the pod door began to close. Slowly. So damn slowly. A figure appeared at the end of the corridor. It was one of them. The creatures from the pods. It wore a suit of armor that seemed to drink in the light, matte black plates that moved like living shadow. In its hands was a weapon, sleek and brutal, aimed directly at them. The pod door was halfway closed. Come on, come on, come on, Vrel chanted. The creature raised its weapon. Vrel dove left, pulling Pix with him. Dax went right. The corridor exploded where they'd been standing, not with fire or plasma, but with something that tore reality itself apart. The metal simply ceased to exist, atoms scattered into component particles. What in the void? Dax screamed. 3/4 closed. Another creature appeared. Then another. They moved with coordination that spoke of centuries of training, spreading out, covering angles, advancing like a machine built for killing. Almost closed. One of the creatures lunged forward, impossibly fast, its armored hand reaching for the gap. Vrel saw its eyes through the helmet's visor. Blue. Utterly cold. Calculating. Human eyes. The door sealed. The hand withdrew just in time. Metal on metal, locked tight. Punch it. Vrel roared. Get us out of here. The pod's thrusters fired. They lurched away from the warship, spinning wildly as Crix pulled them back toward the salvage cruiser. Through the viewport, Vrel watched the ancient vessel shrink. No. Not shrink. It was following them. Crix, tell me we can jump to slip space, Vrel said, his voice surprisingly calm despite the terror clawing at his throat. 30 seconds to charge. The warship was close now. Too close. Its weapons arrays were extending from the hull like claws unsheathing. Vrel counted at least 40 turrets, each one tracking their tiny pod with mechanical precision. 20 seconds. Light gathered at the warship's bow. Not the red of emergency lighting. This was blue, bright and terrible, building like a star being born. 15 seconds. They're hailing us, Crix said, confused. Audio only. Wait, the translator is catching up. Playing now. A voice filled the pod. Deep. Measured. Speaking in that ancient tongue, but the translator was rendering it now, word by terrible word. Unidentified vessel. You have trespassed on Terran military property. You have activated defense protocols. You have 10 seconds to transmit identification codes and surrender, or you will be designated hostile and eliminated. This is your only warning. Terran? Pix whispered. What's a Terran? 10 seconds. Crix shouted. Do we answer? Dax asked. The blue light at the warship's bow reached critical mass. 5 seconds. Vrel made a decision. Jump. Now. 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 Reality twisted. The salvage cruiser tore a hole in space and fell through it, dragging the pod with it. The last thing Vrel saw was that blue light releasing, a beam of pure destruction lancing through the space they'd occupied a microsecond before. Then they were elsewhere. Slip space. Safe. The crew sat in silence, breathing hard, staring at nothing. What, Dax finally said, in the name of all the gods, was that? Vrel didn't answer immediately. He was thinking about the pods. Hundreds of them. Thousands, maybe. All waking up. All containing those creatures. Those humans. That warship, ancient beyond measure but still deadly, still operational, still hunting. Crix, he said slowly. Did you get a location fix on that ship before we jumped? Yes. Why? What's the nearest inhabited system? There was a pause. Then, quietly, Velker Prime. 3 cycles away at standard drive. Velker Prime. Population 7 billion. The Council's 4th largest trade hub. Completely undefended, because there hadn't been a war in this sector for 100 rotations. Until now. We need to warn them, Pix said. We need to tell the Council. Tell them what? Vrel asked bitterly. That we woke up a ghost ship? That there's a species nobody's ever heard of flying a warship that could slag a planet? That they gave us 10 seconds to surrender, which means they have rules of engagement, which means they have a military, which means somewhere out there are more of them? The implication settled over the crew like a burial shroud. They were sleeping, Dax said quietly. For 200 rotations, they were sleeping. Why? Vrel thought about those cold blue eyes. About the precision of their movements. About a ship that could survive centuries in the void and wake up ready for war. Maybe they were waiting, he said. Or maybe, someone put them to sleep. Hid them away. Hoped they'd never be found. And we found them, Pix whispered. And we woke them up. Crix's voice came through the comm, small and frightened. Boss, what do we do? Vrel looked at his reflection in the dark viewport. He looked old. Tired. He thought about running. About jumping to the far reaches and never looking back. But then he remembered Velker Prime. 7 billion souls who had no idea what was coming. Set course for the nearest council station, he said. Maximum speed. They'll never believe us, Dax said. Then we make them believe, Vrel replied. Because if we don't, if the council doesn't mobilize every fleet they have, if they don't warn every world in this sector to raise shields and arm weapons, then what happened to us today is going to happen to everyone. He stood up, squared his shoulders, and made himself believe the words he was about to say. We found humanity's greatest weapon. And now, it's awake. Outside the ship, in the vast and uncaring void, slip space currents carried their trajectory forward. Behind them, light years away, a ghost warship finished its calculations. And began to move. Friends, if you are enjoying our videos and want to watch new and exciting sci-fi and HFY stories every day, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to turn on the bell icon so you never miss any of our latest uploads. Like the video and share it with your friends as well, so our community can continue to grow and bring you even more amazing content.